Emily's gaze followed Turner's car until it was a distant speck, and a silent, desperate shake of her head released the first hot tear. But her refusal to comply revealed something that terrified Turner even more than professional ruin. She was no longer the malleable, grateful teenager he had manipulated for months. Pregnancy had given her a sense of purpose and power that threatened his control completely. The mask was slipping. The patient, caring sheriff who positioned himself as her savior was being replaced by a desperate predator whose true nature was finally emerging. Crisis has a way of revealing who people really are beneath their carefully constructed facades. For pregnant teenagers in abusive situations, this moment of defiance often triggers escalated danger. The abuser realizes that their victim is no longer completely under their control, that their secret might be exposed, that their carefully planned exploitation is about to unravel. The confrontation that followed would determine whether Emily Dawson lived to see her 19th birthday. And in Oak Valley, Wyoming, everyone was about to learn what James Turner was truly capable of when his back was against the wall. The weeks following the pregnancy announcement transformed James Turner from a controlled predator into a desperate man on the edge of complete breakdown. As March arrived in Oak Valley, the pressure from all sides began mounting to unbearable levels. Emily's demands escalated with each passing day. She wanted him to leave his wife immediately. She wanted to move in together openly. She wanted to announce their relationship to the community and start planning for their baby's future. In her mind, the pregnancy had changed everything. They were going to be a family, and she was tired of hiding. The 18-year-old had no understanding of the catastrophic consequences her demands would create. She saw only the fairy tale ending she had been promised through months of manipulation. But for Turner, each conversation felt like a noose tightening around his neck. His behavioral changes became impossible to hide. Deputy Emily Jones noticed that her usually punctual sheriff arrived late to work repeatedly, looking exhausted and distracted. During department meetings, Turner would lose his train of thought mid-sentence or snap at subordinates over minor issues. His wife Claire mentioned to friends that James seemed stressed about budget constraints and personnel issues. The careful facade that had protected him for months was cracking under the strain. Turner knew that people were starting to notice, but he couldn't control the anxiety that was consuming him from the inside. Time was running out in the most literal sense. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. By April, Emily's pregnancy would become visible to anyone paying attention. Her grandmother would notice. Her classmates would whisper. The entire community would start asking questions about the identity of the father. The mathematical certainty of exposure drove Turner to consider the unthinkable. If Emily wouldn't eliminate the pregnancy, and if she refused to disappear quietly, then there was only one solution that would preserve his life and career. The thought crept into his mind during sleepless nights, growing stronger each time he pictured his professional ruin and public humiliation. The plan formed gradually over several weeks of careful calculation. Turner began researching remote locations where a body might never be found. He studied weather patterns and hunting schedules. He mentally cataloged which of his weapons would be most effective, while leaving minimal forensic evidence. The final preparations took place during the first week of April. Turner retrieved an untraceable .38 caliber revolver from the evidence room, a weapon confiscated years earlier from a drug bust. He purchased a shovel with cash from a hardware store in a neighboring town, wearing civilian clothes and a baseball cap to avoid recognition. Most chilling of all, he created fake documentation suggesting that Emily Dawson had expressed interest in running away to California. He forged a note in handwriting that resembled hers, claiming she felt overwhelmed by small-town life and wanted to start fresh somewhere new. What happens next is truly unthinkable. But before we continue, make sure you're subscribed because cases like this show us the importance of staying aware of the dangers around us. The escalation from emotional manipulation to calculated murder demonstrates how quickly dangerous situations can spiral beyond control. When someone's behavior changes dramatically, especially someone in a position of power, it's crucial to recognize these warning signs before tragedy strikes. In Oak Valley, Wyoming, the trusted sheriff was about to cross a line that would transform him from predator to killer. Thursday, April 13th, 2023 dawned gray and drizzly in Oak Valley. The spring rain that had been falling steadily for 2 days would provide perfect cover for what James Turner had planned. At 3:47 p.m., he sent Emily a text message that would seal her fate. "Meet me at the cabin. I've made my decision about us and the baby. It's time to start our new life together." Emily Dawson read those words with a heart full of hope. After weeks of arguments and pressure, Turner had finally come to his senses. He was ready to leave his wife to claim their child, to build the family she had dreamed of having. She drove to the remote hunting cabin, believing she was heading toward her future. The cabin sat 15 miles outside Oak Valley, accessible only by a narrow dirt road that wound through dense pine forest. Turner had chosen this location carefully. No cell phone reception, no nearby witnesses, no chance of interruption. He arrived 30 minutes early, using the time to prepare himself mentally for what he was about to do. When Emily's battered Honda Civic pulled up to the cabin, Turner was waiting on the porch with a bouquet of wildflowers and a smile that masked his deadly intentions. She ran into his arms, tears of joy streaming down her face as she spoke excitedly about baby names and their future together. The confrontation came without warning. As they sat on the cabin's couch, Turner calmly explained that there would be no future together, no public relationship, no baby, no happily ever after. He had decided to stay with his wife and preserve his career, and Emily needed to disappear from Oak Valley permanently. The hope in Emily's eyes transformed into confusion, then disbelief, then desperate panic as she realized the true purpose of this meeting. She tried to run, but Turner blocked the door. When she attempted to push past him, he grabbed her wrist with enough force to leave bruises. The struggle that followed was brief but violent. Emily fought with the desperation of someone who suddenly understood that her life was in danger. She clawed at his face, leaving scratches that would later require explanation. She screamed for help that would never come. She begged a man she thought loved her to remember their connection, their promises, their unborn child. James Turner pulled the .38 caliber revolver from his jacket with the cold precision of a man who had already crossed every moral boundary. The first shot struck Emily in the chest, silencing her pleas instantly. The second shot, fired as she lay dying on the cabin floor, ended 2 lives, hers and that of their unborn child. The immediate aftermath revealed the true depth of Turner's depravity. Standing over the body of the teenager he had manipulated, exploited, and murdered, he felt no remorse. Only relief that his problem had been solved and calculation about the cover-up that would follow. This represents the final consequence of unchecked predatory behavior. The moment when an abuser realizes that their victim poses an existential threat to their carefully constructed life. Some predators will go to any length, including murder, to protect themselves from exposure and consequences. In that remote cabin, surrounded by the beauty of Wyoming's wilderness, evil had triumphed over innocence. But the man who thought he had committed the perfect crime was about to learn that some secrets refused to stay buried. James Turner spent the next 4 hours transforming from killer back into Oak Valley's respected sheriff. Using every skill from his 2 decades in law enforcement, he methodically eliminated evidence and constructed an elaborate cover story that would fool his colleagues, his community, and initially even seasoned investigators. The body disposal demonstrated chilling calculation. Turner drove Emily's Honda to a remote section of forest 3 miles from the cabin, then returned on foot to collect her remains. He buried her in a shallow grave, scattering pine needles and fallen branches to camouflage the disturbed earth. The .38 caliber revolver was cleaned and returned to the evidence room before his shift ended. The manufactured disappearance began the next morning when Helen Dawson called the sheriff's department, frantic that her granddaughter hadn't come home. Turner personally took the call, his voice filled with professional concern as he assured the elderly woman that Oak Valley's finest would find her missing granddaughter. Taking control of the investigation was perhaps the most sickening aspect of Turner's cover-up. He organized the search teams, coordinated with neighboring departments, and held daily press conferences pleading for information about Emily's whereabouts. Standing before cameras with Helen Dawson beside him, he spoke movingly about the community's dedication to bringing the young woman home safely. The fake runaway narrative gained traction when Turner conveniently discovered the forged note in Emily's bedroom during a routine search. The handwriting analysis would later prove inconclusive, and the story about California Dream seemed plausible to those who didn't know Emily well. Even Helen began to wonder if her granddaughter had indeed fled Oak Valley to escape her painful memories. For 3 weeks, Turner maintained the charade with Oscar-worthy performances. He organized candlelight vigils, coordinated volunteer search parties, and comforted grieving community members, while secretly knowing exactly where Emily's body lay buried. He used official resources to stage fake leads, sending search teams to distant counties while avoiding the area where he had committed murder. The unraveling began on May 4th when hiker Marcus Thompson discovered human remains partially exposed after recent heavy rainfall. The spring storms that had provided cover for the murder ultimately betrayed the killer by washing away the camouflage he had so carefully arranged. Forensic evidence immediately contradicted the runaway theory. The coroner determined that Emily had died from gunshot wounds, not from any accident or natural cause. DNA evidence from the scratches on her fingernails, combined with ballistics analysis of the bullets, created an investigative trail that led directly back to James Turner. Please don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe to the channel. The Colorado Bureau of Investigation took over the case when local evidence pointed toward law enforcement involvement. Within 72 hours, they had matched the weapon to the Sheriff's Department evidence room and identified Turner as the last person to have official contact with Emily Dawson. The arrest came at dawn on May 8, 2023. Turner was taken into custody at his home in front of his wife and twin sons as news crews captured footage of Oak Valley's fallen hero being led away in handcuffs. The trial lasted 6 weeks, during which prosecutors methodically dismantled every element of Turner's cover story. Phone records, GPS tracking, forensic evidence, and witness testimony painted a complete picture of manipulation, abuse, and premeditated murder. James Turner was convicted of first-degree murder and sentenced to life in prison without the possibility of parole. The judge noted that his abuse of authority and betrayal of public trust warranted the harshest possible punishment under Wyoming law. This case demonstrates how abusers exploit their positions to avoid consequences, and why thorough investigations are essential when authority figures are involved. Most importantly, it shows that victims' families deserve justice no matter how powerful their abuser may appear to be. The conviction of James Turner sent shockwaves through Oak Valley that continue reverberating today. A community that had prided itself on trust and safety was forced to confront the uncomfortable reality that their most respected protector had been their greatest threat. The impact on Oak Valley's residents was profound and lasting. Property values declined as the town's reputation suffered national scrutiny. Tourism dropped significantly during the 2023 ski season as visitors questioned their safety in a place where the sheriff had committed murder. Local businesses struggled as the community grappled with its shattered sense of security. Policy changes followed swiftly. The Oak Valley Sheriff's Department implemented mandatory psychological evaluations for all officers, established civilian oversight committees, and created anonymous reporting systems for misconduct allegations. Body cameras became standard equipment, and no officer could work alone with vulnerable individuals without backup present. The personal consequences for those connected to Turner were devastating. Claire Turner filed for divorce within weeks of his arrest, relocating with their twin sons to her sister's home in Oregon. The boys, once proud of their father's career, now carried the burden of his crimes and the stigma of his name. His extended family faced harassment and social isolation that forced many to leave Oak Valley permanently. Helen Dawson never recovered from the double tragedy of losing her granddaughter and discovering the betrayal by someone she had trusted completely. She moved back to Denver, unable to remain in the town where Emily had suffered and died. The elderly woman's faith in authority figures was permanently shattered, a trauma that extended far beyond her personal loss. The broader implications of this case extend beyond Oak Valley's borders. It demonstrates how predators systematically exploit positions of trust and authority to access vulnerable victims. The badge that should have represented protection became a weapon of manipulation and control. Most importantly, this case reminds us that Emily Dawson was more than just a victim of a shocking crime. She was an 18-year-old girl with dreams, aspirations, and untapped potential. She loved music, hoped to study nursing, and wanted to help others who had experienced loss and trauma. Her pregnancy represented hope for a future that was stolen from both her and her unborn child. Communities must create better support systems for vulnerable individuals, especially those dealing with trauma, isolation, and economic hardship. We must teach young people to recognize grooming behavior and provide safe reporting mechanisms when authority figures cross boundaries. The importance of accountability for those in power cannot be overstated. No badge, no title, no position of respect should shield anyone from consequences when they abuse their authority. The justice system must be vigilant in investigating misconduct allegations regardless of the accused person's status or reputation. This case reminds us that predators can hide behind any facade. If this story has impacted you, like this video, share to help others recognize these warning signs, and subscribe for more cases that matter. We must never stop fighting for justice for victims like Emily Dawson. Her memory deserves more than just sorrow. It demands action, vigilance, and an unwavering commitment to protecting those who cannot protect themselves. Never forget, predators often hide behind authority and respectability, exploiting trust to manipulate and control vulnerable individuals. And it is of great importance to recognize grooming behavior, maintain vigilance, and ensure accountability for those in power to prevent further abuse and protect the innocent. Only through continued awareness and accountability can we hope to prevent future tragedies and honor the lives lost to those who betrayed the trust we placed in them. Make sure to hit the like button, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel so you don't miss our next spine-tingling story.